On today's episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, master fitter Tyler Fitzel joins us to discuss some of his favorite trends of the year in 2024 in golf equipment, talking about 7 woods, 9 woods, mini drivers, and some long putters. We want to get his take on those. Of course, we're going to be looking at the latest on the PGA Tour. We had a new event in Utah, and then also we've got a couple new fun segments at the end of the show as well. So stay tuned for another episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Hey golfers, I'm Drew Maholder, Second Swing Golf, back here in the studio for another episode of Second Swing Thoughts, joined by Sean Power, co-host. Sean, we got a fun one today. We're gonna hear Tyler's thoughts, and we also we got to talk about what happened on tour. We got some fun things that we saw out in Utah.
Yeah, absolutely, should be a great show. Really, you're really gonna enjoy Tyler's takes on some of those trends in golf in 2024. There were certainly some key things that happened that you saw. It's fun to hear, the fitting take on it, what he's seen in the Bay, and why these clubs, work for people. So it should be a good interview there. And then, speaking of Utah, that was, we'll just go right into the turn with that. The Black Desert Championship out in Utah is the inaugural event. Still part of the PGA Fall Tour season, so weren't, quite the big names, but was a fun tournament. Matt McCarty. This might be a name we might need to get to know pretty quickly. He won a lot on the Korn Ferry Tour, and this was his second career PGA Tour start. Picks up a win. Yes, maybe it's not the full fields, but winning on the PGA Tour is hard no matter what the field is, and his performance was pretty impressive. Yeah,
so he had just bunched together a bunch of wins on the Korn Ferry Tour, and that's how, through 3 wins on the Korn Ferry Tour is how he earned his PGA Tour card. So this is his second start as a Tour card member, and he goes on and wins the way he did, 23 under, and had, control of the tournament for most of the weekend. So kudos to him, and he's already now up into the top 50 of the world ranking. So guy who's climbing up, and like you mentioned, that's a name we're going to be, I think, mentioning a lot more in the near future here as we flip the calendar into the quote-unquote full PGA Tour season here in 2025.
Yeah, plus the PGA Tour needs some more lefties out there.
Yeah.
I know there's a big name that has gone to another tour.
Yes.
And Mike Weir's, he's on the champion, so they need kind of some,
Brian Harmon, major winner last year. Come on.
I know, him too, but they need more. And McCarty's up there. And, he had a great tournament, and he actually had a really, there's a couple interesting items in his winning bag if you want to take a look at that. He's a complete ping player from top to bottom. That's, rare in itself. A lot of times you might have, a club or two, but he's straight up ping. Now he does mix in some generations. G430 LST right off the top for his driver, 10.5 degrees. Nothing crazy there, but his woods is where it gets really interesting.
Yes.
He actually goes back 2 generations for his 3-wood, going with the G410. Playing that at 14.5 degrees, and then he goes right into a G437 wood. So speaking of trending clubs of 2024, he's got one right there. What do you think about that 3-wood though? So
there's a picture on golfdibberex.com on their page, and that is a worn out G410 3-wood. I don't know what condition rating it would fall under at secondswing.com, but it has been used quite a bit, and we see it a lot though with tour pros. Like if they find a fairway wood or a club in this range and they trust it, it's tough to bring it out of the bag for those guys. So that's cool. It's cool to see a G410 like that in that condition, because there's all kinds of those on the Second Swing website. And then obviously we talked about fairway woods. A lot more of that conversation with Tyler coming up as well. 7 woods are a big deal. More people playing them. I might be playing one next year.
I think I'm going to go take a look, because I can't hit a 4-iron right now.
Yeah, so
I'd need
recommend
something that goes, up a little bit for me. And I hit my trusty 5-wood, my old Cleveland, quite well still. So even though it's a relic. But then he goes, Ping Blueprint S, 4 through pitching wedge. I know that was Kevin Kraft, I think one of his favorite clubs of the year, based on your guys' testing earlier in the year. Wedge is a little interesting. Not unheard of, but he goes with the Ping Glide Forged Pro. He's not into the S159s yet, but still a pretty new Ping wedge there. And then on the putter side, he goes with a little mallet there. Center shafted, though, with the was it a Tyne C?
Tyne C, yeah.
So I wanted to say Tyne G.
It's kind of got
Tyne C.
That a lot of mass and material behind the heel and toe, kind of some stability there. But yeah, pretty good. a good win for Ping too. Like, I mean, he's going to be a guy that you want to have on your staff if you can. So kudos to Ping for him.
Yeah, good up and comer. And we're going to stay in Utah for this next topic. This is actually just one of the coolest things I saw. I saw it before, the tournament started. But J. Don Blake, so he was competing in his 500th PGA Tour start. He's a St. George, Utah native, or that's where he grew up. So it's just down the road from where this tournament was held. So he, got to play, and it was pretty cool getting to play in your hometown. But he played with a Titleist Bullseye putter, the deep face John Reeder Jr. design.
Yep.
John Reeder was the original designer of it. I think Acushnet, who, through Titleist, bought them out. But that, was one of the most famous putters ever made. So I just thought it was cool. He said he played it because it was gifted to him from his dad from 50 years ago.
And he's still, that's awesome. I don't know. I mean, to still be playing a Bullseye, given what's all out there, that's cool. Like, that's awesome. That's something that we are going to be excited about. So, and then, a guy he's had a lot of success. Like, he's won on the PGA Tour, NCAA individual champion. Yep. So, a guy that's dialed in, and to have him kind of put this sort of cap on his career like this, 500 starts in sort of his hometown. I'd say kudos to the tournament for this use of a sponsor's exemption. That was a good one.
Yeah, pretty cool to pay homage to that. Now, that's not the putter he's using all the time. I think he made a special exception for this tournament, but pretty cool. And then finally here, we got the Shriners coming up this week in Vegas, and Neal Shipley. He Monday qualified, winning a 6-for-1 playoff to clinch there.
So this is one of my favorite events because it's always a birdie fest. I love the course layout. It's kind of out in the desert there in Vegas, and you usually have a pretty solid field, even though it is this time of year. It's going to be kind of a fall event, but Neal Shipley is absolutely a guy that can win this week. He's got the firepower. He's shown up in U.S. Open and Augusta this year, making the cut and kind of contending there, getting a name for himself. And so for those who don't know, he just turned pro this summer. He played at James Madison for 3 years, and then I think 2 years at Ohio State, and was one of the better college players. Really good finish at the U.S. AM. I think that's what it was. Runner-up a year ago.
Yep,
right?
Lost to Dunlap.
That's right, who ended up winning on the PGA Tour. So these guys are good. That's a name to watch this week and in the future of, the near future of professional golf is Neal Shipley. He'll be in the winner's circle pretty soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And this Shriners, this is kind of a tournament where Tom Kim kind of made a name for himself, so it's a great spot for these young guys to go out, play against a really good field. And,
learn how to win, basically.
Learn how to win. I mean, Shipley's made, I think, 6 or 7 cuts in his PGA Tour starts, including, 2 majors. He was the low amateur at both U.S. Open Masters. Only Victor Hovland has done that in the same year. So hopefully he plays well. It's fun to see some of this young, exciting talent get up there and, like to see them win. And
He's also got the trademark long hair, so you're not going to miss him either.
That's right. But, anyways, let's move on here. We got master fitter Tyler Fitzel about to join the show, talking about the trending clubs of 2024.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. Again, we talked about those 7 woods, 9 woods, mini drivers, long putters, things you're probably curious about. So a lot of great insights from Tyler here. All right, now welcoming on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. It is Mr. Tyler Fitzel, master fitter and wedge magician at Second Swing. I got to get the wedge magician part in there for you.
I love it. You got to keep your grooves clean and stay razor sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time. So today we're talking about, throughout the 2024 year, you've been fitting, and in feedback with you, from you and all the other fitters, there's been a few trends that have emerged, and we've noticed it even on the website too, just in terms of activity and what products people are trying to learn more about. So I've got a few, of these trends and of these types of products I want to get your thoughts on.
Yeah.
And so the first one being higher lofted fairway woods, in particular 7 woods, 9 woods, even getting up into I think 11 woods, or heaven woods, whatever else is out there. Just want to get your take on the fittings you've been doing for those clubs and why in particular you think they've been so successful. Why are they getting more interest this year versus in the past?
Well, I think one of the things that we talk about a lot in a fitting is trying to get something that fits in the bag in terms of the shots that you're going to need for it. We know where driver's at. The driver's going to be a little bit longer, usually a little bit lower. We know where the 3-wood is. And even in that, I would say a trend that we've started to see in the fairway woods is gaining more loft, right? So it's not just the 7-wood area, which I think is probably the largest growth section to that. It's also, like I've seen in fittings, is going with more loft in general to begin with. 7 woods really hit a great spot. Number one, we have people that will come in all the time and say, well, I'm not a hybrid person. I'd rather have a fairway wood. Well, great, because we have options that way too. Number two, the adjustability of them, right? It's not just a 7-wood anymore. I can make it a little bit flatter, take a little loft off. I can add a little bit of loft. I can make it more upright. I can open it, close it. Those are huge assets when you're talking about the different types of shot patterns that you see. One of the things that we saw a few years ago, 7 woods have started to been kind of creeping in, because for a stronger player, if you don't get the height and the carry distance and then adding the spin for stopping power, those longer approaches, say for instance the 210, 20, 30 yard approaches for someone, getting the height and the spin is very important. As I come down over the top of the water, over the top of a bunker to a hole location that sits on a false front. I need it to stop.
Right. And a lot of players might just have like a 4-iron or even a 3-iron. And it's like, how do I... There's no way to get the ball close to the hole that way. When at least you have the chance to with something that launches higher, more forgiving. So that seems to be the primary, the root of this movement here of 7 woods and 9 woods. And then, of course, we have to discuss, our live at lunch this Thursday. We're going to be doing some testing of the best 7 woods available. And then, talking about the different fittings and the products that you guys can work into the fittings there, but there's some good ones for sure.
I would say from the fitting aspect, is even just, go back about 4 years. We had 7 woods with the possibility of a regular flex shaft, a senior, maybe a ladies. Now all of a sudden in our fitting studios, like our tour van, we've got stiff, we've got extra stiff, we've got different extra stiff options. We've gone into this because there are players that require a club like this, and we've got more on hand. Yeah. We've been selling more of them. It's becoming a nice option for that. And that's one of the things I think is always really interesting as we talk about trends. Well, this is a huge trend.
Right.
Because if you're not getting a hybrid in the air, even though you could hit the hybrid straight, you could hit it on your target line. If it's not getting in the air, you're going to have to find something that does.
Right.
And that's where this really helps.
Yeah. And that's where, even we've done comparisons on, between us or other videos on our channel comparing it to utility irons and hybrids. And there are differences in launch, spin, et cetera, there that are worth something. So, well, sticking at the top of the bag, the next kind of trend that we saw this year was mini drivers kind of taking off. And with the burner mini that was released in 23, we sort of didn't, I don't think anybody anticipated then the sort of popularity that, now the burner mini copper would have. I guess talked about the experience you had maybe fitting them this year. How many players did you have, and why those are so functional for some players?
Yeah. One of the things that we've seen is the mini drivers kind of been in the limelight off and on, right? We've seen different versions, different companies over the past 10 years. The reason it fits really well into the bag is the same thing we were talking about with fairway woods. The fairway wood game is kind of started to evolve where loft and launch is a really important factor. So now you get into it with a driver. You say, a good example, if you're going to hit it 320 yards and you hit it really nice and solid, but you get to a hole where it's like, well, I really can't hit driver here. The mini driver becomes a great option over the fairway wood because the fairway wood might not be able to quite get that distance to it, whereas the mini driver is it's a little bit more forgiving on the face. You can maybe miss-hit it a little bit, still get it to go nice and straight, get it for some launch, get it for some spin. So the mini driver is really, I find it works really well for a couple of things. One, for the type of player that's a much stronger swing and you've got a lot of speed, this fills a gap that the 3-wood or a fairway wood's not quite doing. We're seeing a lot more players that'll go from a driver to maybe a mini, mini driver, and then have a gap down to their irons. It might be a driving iron, might be a hybrid.
Yeah.
They might not even have a fairway wood. The other side of that is this might be for someone who's traditionally hit their 3-wood a lot better than their driver. Based on the technique, the kind of the swing technique that they use, we might see this as a better option because it's a little shorter, more controllable. It still has less loft than the 3-wood, so it's not necessarily just going to shoot up right in the air. Still allows them for some good club head speed and good distance to it. And so we're finding these trends in certain categories. I would say everything kind of has always been based around launch and spin conditions. And that's what we're seeing here. Okay, well, the driver's a little too much. Maybe it's coming in a little too flat. I want this a little higher. I want something. This could be something where you say, I really want to set something up so that it's just kind of a fade and it won't go left on me. Or
see, all these principles are still applicable here. It doesn't really change much for you guys in that sense. Like it's still just finding the tool that works for this particular purpose. And so the mini driver just happens to be kind of a new style of tool that could be in the bag that really hasn't been an option too frequently in the past few years.
I'll say this. One of the things that we're fortunate enough is to be able to see data like from Arcos as an example. The difference between hitting a driver versus a 3-wood in terms of fairways was statistically something like 3% more fairways with a 3-wood. But the mini driver starts to help it with that equation because you might be able to have more control, hit some more fairways, but still keep the distance. Because the only thing that a less than driver gives you off the tee is less distance. Nothing will ever guarantee you straighter and more control. So when even the best players in the world hit, a par 3, 3 out of 4 times when they're playing, they'll be on the par 3 75% of the time. Well, there's that 25% for the best player in the world, the best players in the world at the elite level. That's a huge percentage difference. And so just like we would talk about it with some of the other clubs and trends for like fairway woods, and we talk about mini drivers, they fit in a great spot. And maybe it's just for your golf course. Maybe it's for a particular golf course that you play more often than not. But it doesn't have to be something where this is in the bag every single time. Maybe it's just a club that goes in rotation based on what you're doing too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And we do that with fairways. We do that with hybrids. We do that with different irons. We do that with the different wedges. We do it with putters all the time. Clubs come in and out of the bag depending on when we play, how we play, where we play. So whatever your preference is to that, it's just about optimizing that club.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to see how this is, because it's almost like in a lot of ways between we talk about 7-woods and 9-woods and now mini drivers, like 3-woods are almost, I don't want to say obsolete. That's pretty extreme, but you're seeing a lot more bags without a 3-wood in there because there's just not as much of a purpose if you have these other clubs in there.
Yeah, or a redefined 3-wood. It's like, you can have a strong 3-wood, a 3-wood, or a high-lofted, right? So all of a sudden a 3-wood can go from, let's say, 12 degrees up to 17. Well, that's, say, a 3-wood, but that's a very large loft difference.
Yeah, or a 2-wood and a 4-wood, you could call them that too.
Right.
Last one here. We've obviously was a big part of the year. Kind of started really middle of maybe 2023. Was just this trend of longer putters. Both it started on tour, people noticed, and then you kind of see that the technology and the stability of this extra weight in the putters can translate to any type of golfer. So in the long putter world, what have you seen? Have you seen a bunch of improvement in players putting one in the bag? What's kind of your take on that?
The putting game is such a unique thing that something different might work and kind of change the confidence. And that's what it really comes down to. I think if you ask any of our putting experts, we've got several of them in this company. And one of the things that they'll say is that confidence is key, right? It's always, I got to have confidence. I got to get rolling that golf ball. So I think if you can get into it, maybe you do get into a different position. So your technique changes. If you get into a longer putter, that doesn't mean you have a long putter. It could just be longer than what you've got. Right. The mid putters, the broomsticks, they all kind of apply in there. The other side of that too becomes most of those are mallet type putters, right? They're not blades. You're not going to get a 40-inch blade putter. Typically, the weighting doesn't quite work for that. The stability on that needs to be a little bit different. So we've seen a lot of lab putters that have been a little bit longer, which is we're working well. We've seen a lot of the Odyssey Cruiser Jailbird type putters has been working really well. We're seeing it with Bettinardi putters. We are seeing it with some of the Scotty Cameron putters. You've got a lot of longer putter options, and a lot of it is more of a mallet style, and it's a different roll. We've seen, I'd say, looking back, I'd say the first longer putter design that we really saw of popularity in the past few years was Victor Hovland.
Yeah.
That was kind of where he had like a 36 or
37. Still an inch or two longer than standard, you know, and he's and you noticed that there was an extra feel, maybe extra weight above his hands that he provided good feedback on it. So that seems like that's where maybe they're piggybacking off the trend a little bit. Yeah. All these manufacturers, and now you see every brand seems like they have an option of a 36, 37, 38, 39-inch putter for players looking for that feel of extra weight maybe above their hands and more stability. I got one in the bag, and I love it. It's been great. Yeah, and I think that changing that up, like I said, if there's two things, you know, from a lot of the things I always talk about, technology and technique. Well, change up the technology and change up your technique and see what happens. You might find that all of a sudden something that allows you to stand taller, it's got a better weight, allows you to just kind of move the club a little bit more free. Those things can really change up the way that you putt. And if it does, and you start to see positive results, well, your confidence starts to kick in, and that's huge, especially with putting. Yeah. So it's been, and we don't know what 2025 is going to bring, but 2024 brought those kind of three big ones, I think, that really, you know, came about in the fitting bay. We had more 7-woods, 9-woods. We had mini drivers, and we had some longer putters that I know you guys are working quite a bit with compared to previous years. So golfers, if you want to take advantage of one of these trends, you know, get in the bay, get with someone like Tyler, see what a 7-wood or 9-wood could do for you, see what a mini driver could do for you, or maybe get on the putting green and try out a longer putter. You might play better. So Tyler, thanks for taking the time today and chat with us about these things. It's been good to kind of get the insight, especially from the wedge magician himself. Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, great conversation there, Drew. Those three trends definitely are what stood out to me. Yeah. I think 7-wood long putters, I think those are both here to stay. I just think you're seeing too many good results out of them. You know, more scoring opportunities from distance with the woods, and with the putter, just more stability throughout the stroke, which, you know, is what you want on the putting green. You want that stable, consistent stroke that leads to better scoring. So I think that's here to stay. Mini drivers, I'll be curious. Yeah. I personally think I might have to go try one out because I struggle with the driver. I hit fairway woods pretty decent, but I don't hit them far enough. So maybe it could be a in between. I'm interested too if the mini driver trend is going to stay. I agree with you on the high-lofted fairway woods and the putters. Probably here to stay. Just seeing too much benefit for golfers. Mini drivers is still a little bit niche, but enough to where our fitters, you know, not just Tyler, but a lot of our fitters are saying these things are awesome, you know, whether it's the burner mini or it's the AI smoke mini. That was just, we had to get his take on him because, you know, it's kind of the end of the year. His fittings are slowing down a little bit up here in Minnesota with the weather, but obviously fittings going year round in our stores in Scottsdale and Dallas too. Yeah. So, all right. So here's a question. Give me a prediction of a trend that will happen in 2025. Ooh, that's a good one. That is a really good one. Man, a prediction of a trend. I'm going to say combo sets, but 3 different sets within the combo set. So we've had combo sets. That's been, you know, the last few years is really when those have popularized, but I'm going to even take it a step further. 3 sets is going to be like a lot of them are 2 right now, some 3, but 3 different sets in 3 different models in one iron set. Yeah, I forget off the top of my head what he just won a couple weeks ago, but he had 3 combos in there. Interesting. I think maybe not so much on the PGA side, but I think cavity back wedges. Yeah, that's a good one. I think more people are going to start hitting those, especially for their gap and maybe even their sand wedge. Lob wedge, you maybe want to manipulate the face a little more, but just looking for that forgiveness. I think maybe that's a good one. See more people going in that direction. Yeah, I'm curious too. I think like OEMs and manufacturers should
put more into that too, because I think there's a ton of benefit golfers. A lot of golfers could get out of those types of wedges in their bag for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we got if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, we got a busy week ahead on our YouTube channel. Drew, give us a preview of what's to come up.
Yeah, so we've got our live at lunch on Thursday with Tyler. We're going to be doing a comparison of 7 woods, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then obviously we'll dive into the best models that are in our fitting bay. Go through the various club heads and see what performs best. We've also got some content with Emma Carpenter coming next week as well. We dive into some more fitting things with her. So really good stuff coming up. And then we are also going to go take a trip next week to gather some content. So some more details on that coming as well.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun, and looking forward to that. And more to come on that. But finally here, we did it a couple weeks ago where, we kind of spotlighted some cool finds you find at Second Swing. We got obviously a very large club selection. We got bags. We got all sorts of stuff. So we kind of challenged each other to each find something that just stood out to you as cool, whether, at Second Swing. So I'll let you have the honors to go first.
Yeah, so this is unique. So for those that are able to see on YouTube, I'm holding what looks like from a distance, probably an ordinary ping kind of answer style putter, right? But it is actually built basically to the specs that Bubba Watson likes, but it is right-handed. So It is a right-handed Bubba Watson putter, essentially. So it's a couple interesting things that make it unique. It's got a face milling all the way across the face, which is a little bit unique for kind of a PLD design. And also the alignment aid on the kind of sight line, it's just one single dot in the center, which is unique. You don't see a lot of ping putters with a dot. A lot of them more have that line. So the dot was definitely a Bubba preference. And then also, if you can kind of see too on the backside of the heel and toe on the weights there, you can see Bubba's name is engraved, Bubba Watson, in red, white, and blue. So this is it was just it's not online. You're not going to find it on our website. This is something that's just kind of as a collectible item, so to speak, for us here at the office. That on a little putting green, we can go hit some putts with it sometimes. But this is one of my favorite things that's here because he's a 2-time champion at Augusta, and he's got obviously all kinds of wins to his name, and so it's a little taste of what putting like him would be like if I was a left-handed player, kind of similar specs. So
yeah, that was a good find. So mine was actually just a recent trade-in. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll probably see this out there coming soon. But a couple of 60-degree original spin milled Vokey wedges that are still in the plastic.
Wow!
So about as mint as you can get. We got a 7-degree bounce.
So that's not
4-degree bounce.
So not like SM4 or SM5. It's literally the original spin mill.
I think it was 2009.
That's a long time ago.
I think
it might be before that even.
And I'm not sure, but there's
long time ago.
I know on the spin mills, the first two, I think these have the illegal grooves in them. So if you're playing in USGA events, can't
stay away from those.
But if you're just out playing for fun, these wedges are there. They're available online, so. Take a look at them. But still in the plastic. You don't see too many clubs.
And what's the loss on them? Are they the same loss?
Both 60. One's got 4 degrees bounce. One's got 7. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that was my find of the week.
It's crazy. This type of thing that some of the clubs that are traded in. How would anybody stumble upon freshly, never used in the wrapper wedges from at least 15 years ago?
Yeah, I do not know, but.
The things our team is able to find over there, it's crazy.
Pretty cool, but So, anyways, that's
a wrap. Yeah. So, for obviously a ton of content, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed on all the podcast platforms. If there's any suggestions you guys have, or any maybe challenges you have for this Second Swing Find segment, we have obviously 160,000 some clubs in our inventory. So, challenge us with something that maybe you don't think we can find, and then we'll go find it and show it to you. So. Sean, another great episode here. Golfers, make sure you subscribe, stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast.